Welcome to the Zachrilege Cast podcast YouTube video interview program that features me talking to some of the best and brightest in the atheist slash secular slash awesome community. This is episode number 120, and I'm recording live on, I hope I put the date right, November 14th, 2017. I would like to thank last week's guest, Evan Davids. Please read his book. I'll put a link in the show notes so y'all can check it out. Tonight, we're going for the popular and somewhat lazy roundtable format. I reached out to friends in our community. We're going to talk about the important issues of our day or random subjects as I, as your God for the next hour, will choose. So who do we have on tonight? Now, this is from my left to right. So YouTube people will see faces. People on the podcast will just imagine they're just very attractive because they are. So from my left to right, we have Skeptic Brett of Atheists on High, but not the highest atheist podcast for rap. Still holds that. So
you
introduce
gotta throw me under the
yourself
bus.
and anything else you want to say as a hello.
Well, yeah, as you said, not exactly the highest podcast. I still haven't recorded the intro, which apparently I need to do because I've been called out. But yeah, Atheists on High here in Colorado. We actually are not high when we do the show. At least not that I'm aware of, not half the table anyway. And yeah, we're actually pretty easy to find. Anything at all that you put in Atheists on High, that's how you find us. If it's Facebook or Twitter or atheistsonhigh.com or any podcatcher that you use, that's how you find us. It's just actually very much like what you're doing here tonight, Zach. It's a round table type of discussion. Just one camera angle, and everybody just launches off on a topic. We don't pre-prepare any kind of script or anything like that, other than we know what we're going to talk about. And we go live on Facebook every Wednesday at 7 o'clock Mountain Time.
Nice. Now, the next character to my right hasn't been on the show. I feel like it might have been like 100 episodes, but she's been on like 3 or 4 times. So Deb's on Heretic Woman. Apparently her job is at the, dry cleaners or something.
I do actually have an authentic niqab in the closet, but you know.
Oh, you do?
Yep.
Who wouldn't? You know, it's almost niqab season.
It is. Yeah. Well, we've already had snow, and that sucks. But I am with Beyond the Trailer Park, and we are a secular / atheist talk show. We 4 ladies talk about all kinds of shit on our show every week on Monday nights. And yeah, last week we talked to Bill Ludlow, who is a science educator in a history museum who has recently debated Kent Hovind, if you can.
Oh, nice. He's making the rounds lately, it seems.
Yeah.
Before he gets like arrested again, right? Might as well.
Yeah. And next week we're going to be talking to a clergyman from the Church of Satan.
Nice.
Because everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people get the various sects of Satanism mixed up, and some are theistic, some are atheistic, and so we're trying to clarify some of that. Oh,
well, that's a good thing to do. Aren't you another show, or you have another show that's almost ready to go?
Yes.
You don't have to talk about it if you want to, spoiler alert.
There's that one, and then there's also Holy Crap, the Vlogcast, which I also panel on, but that's run by Shujin Tribble. And there's like 6 or 8 of us, depending on who gets out of bed when, because one of them is in France, so he has to get up at like 4 o'clock in the morning. But yeah, and we talk about all kinds of secular stuff too. And I'm going to be launching very soon a little ditty called Full Quranic, and I'm going to read the Quran and comment and all of that fun stuff, because I'm basically going to read the Quran so you folks don't have to, because it's pretty horrible.
And we all appreciate that. And see, we have this split going on currently in the atheist community, and it's between the people who go to bed early and the people who stay up late. And Deb's on the stay up late crowd. Like, yes. I was on Beyond the Trailer Park, and it started at 9. I'm like, it starts at 9? Are you sure?
Well, we've moved. We now start at 7:30.
Yeah, look at that. See? Just for me.
Well, Yeah, just for you, Zach. That's right.
I'm the if you don't have a guest and you have 5 minutes, just give me a call. It's one of those things.
Yeah.
So we'll move on. So we have Jeannie Eichert of RIP Polyaskery, or is polyaskery still a thing? And hi, say hello, intro yourself. What you're drinking, or anything you want to say.
Hi. I don't know. Polyaskery just kind of was. I don't know if it ever is, but hopes. I'm drinking local cider, Dirty Mayor, because it seemed appropriate from a Dan Savage Fuck First mug, because I'm classy that way.
Very classy. And we have Mike Bowler of the Skeptic's Guide to Conspiracy, who's coming to us from outside of Chicago. How you doing?
Hi. Hello, everyone.
Skeptic's Guide to Conspiracy. I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
Do you make yourself listen to a lot of Alex Jones?
Yes,
I'm sorry.
I know, I understand. And I've listened, I've listened to at least maybe about 10 years worth.
Ooh. I listened to one episode for my show, and that was enough.
One's just enough. Yeah, definitely. I've gone through a number of, Alex Jones is actually pretty sane considering some of the other people I've listened to, whether it's there's guys like Alex Jones, George Norrie from Coast to Coast. That's pretty sane stuff from what I've dealt with. I mean, there's guys like this guy Jeff Brenz. He's out there. There's a guy. I don't know if he's around anymore. John Stadtmiller. He was part of the Michigan militia. He got kicked out for turning state's evidence against a couple of the members. Ran to Texas.
Nice.
He started up a show down there. He was associated with Alex Jones, and then he kind of gave Alex Jones the finger and went off on his own. Apparently, yeah, that guy's really out there. But I try to follow as much. I try to get to figure out what these people really believe. I mean, because you'll see on, like nowadays with our wonderful president and how he's tapped that that
Yeah.
conspiracy world. What is it about conspiracy? I mean, for me, why is it that people have latched onto this stuff? That's been what I try to figure out before I go in and try to debunk. I mean, I pretty much, my show originally I was a take on a conspiracy, and I debunk based on historical fact. I try to stick toward the history. I'm not a scientist per se. I might deal with some scientific stuff, but I try to stick with the history because I'm a history nut.
Me too.
I mean, I've got my library back over here for those who can see this. I mean, I've got World War. I'm big into World War II, Civil War, stuff like that. So, and I've got the what got me really started was the Pearl Harbor conspiracies. I mean, I've actually got the magic. That was the Japanese decrypts from Japan to the embassy, their embassies, and all the decodes. That's how serious I got into it, because I was curious. There's stuff about I won't bore you with the conspiracy. I mean, I don't want. It's not my show. It's your show. So, but it's just like I wanted to find out more what was really going on, and that's how I try to do my show. I try to get into the history. I try to understand why people they latch on to why they create the conspiracy, and then just use that to basically just debunk these conspiracies.
Well, Mike, I'll have to have you on solo on the show, and I'll just put some initials out there. JFK. Because there's some new information out that apparently wasn't that interesting because it didn't even stay in the news for more than like 3 days after it happened. But I know we could talk about it, but we will go for an hour, so we gotta move on to.
Actually, give me a couple weeks. I'm still reading all the. I've got all the downloads from the National Archives, and I'm trying to go through that. There's nothing there. It's just a little bit of a
nothing
teaser.
Much new, but enough that I don't know, interest people in a little way. So the next guest we have Michael Schaffer of Reasonable Risk, who I believe is drinking a local Colorado beer. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I've got Colorado Kolsch ale from Steamworks Brewery in Durango, which happens to be the same year I had last time I was on Zachrilege, because I often have that in my fridge. So
it's good to have a go-to beer or beers, as it might be.
In being in Colorado, we have our bounty of beers. So any liquor store worth its salt has a kind of selection you would have never dreamed of, 10 years ago or anywhere else.
Yeah, it's really dangerous. I mean, at a certain point, once you figure out if you're into a certain type of beverage, and then you find out there's like every kind that I would want. If I like one very specific style of beer, there's 50 of them locally, which is great. I think I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, approximately 40 breweries within an hour of the town. That's just crazy, but that's crazy in a good way.
Yeah, but I'm on kind of the outskirts suburbs of Denver. I mean, I could throw a rock and it bounce off one brewery, and it certainly hit at least 39 others.
Yeah, Denver probably put Georgia to shame. We're working on it. We're getting there.
Every strip mall has a microbrewery, and if it's not in a county like the one I live in, it has a dispensary there too. So.
But what about your show?
My show's Reasonable Risk. It's not an atheist or skeptical show per se. But,
yes, it is.
Okay. Jeannie,
somebody would know.
My show is.
It's thoughtful and skeptical for sure.
Okay. Yes. So I guess what I'm saying with that is, what I do is I take sort of the skeptical grounding that I have, and which comes from becoming involved in the atheist community and in the skeptical community, and then I take that and I apply it to a whole bunch of different things. They could be life things. They could be, sometimes consumer finance or economics, or, I mean, this week I got a little bit off my normal subjects just because I had an opportunity where a friend I went to high school with happened to hear the podcast, reached out to me. I did an interview with him about a different subject, but we ended up talking for 40 minutes about the secession of Catalonia from Spain. He lives in Spain right now as a university professor. And I had no idea about this thing going on that could have ripple effects throughout the whole EU, and ultimately impact us. So through the show, I often start in one place and I end up in what I look for is various places could impact our lives, and we should be thinking about more or differently, or how can we make our decisions better? How can we live better?
Decisions better. That's not this kind of show, but I have heard
not at all.
Just a few things about the Spanish situation, and just it's like, sorry, Deb, but we don't pay attention to the outside of our country right now. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, I know. I had no idea. I had heard about this whole thing, and my assumption was like, okay, Catalonia. I don't know what. We can swear, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You've been on my show, man. What the fuck?
I don't always remember who, where. Anyway,
I know. You're very popular. I understand. His
Anyways,
card is full. Go ahead.
what the fuck was I saying? So I didn't know Catalonia. I hear Catalonia. There's this whole secession thing from Spain. I'm like, what the fuck? I don't know what Catalonia is. Well, I didn't realize until I was talking to this friend of mine. Catalonia is where Barcelona is. Like, it's the economic hub of Spain. Like, it's actually an important place. I was thinking, you know, like, say it was the U.S. and Kentucky decides to secede. Well, fuck it. Who cares? So we lose the Arctic.
Oh, no.
You know, I don't think we'd even really notice.
I'm not sure what atheists would do, but okay.
Well, right, exactly.
What do you do on the weekends now?
I don't know, but next time, you know, if I am ever in that area, it's one of those. I really want to go, but I also don't want to give that fucker $40.
Exactly, I'm in the same boat as you.
You gotta protest. Okay, we gotta maybe. The problem is everybody here is so interesting and they have cool shows, and I'm like, I want to hear this part, but then it's like, well, we're not actually going to be talking about issues. That's all right. That's not why I'm here tonight. So our last guest, who was actually the last person to agree to be on, and actually was like probably the host of the third atheist podcast I ever listened to, Ask an Atheist, that's been, you know, actually on like a radio frequency and hasn't gone insane for some reason in the last 7 years. Sam Mulvey, who also is probably the person on this show who's been awake the longest. So I'm just very appreciative that, first of all, that you showed up and you're still awake, and that you're doing this without any beer. So say hello, intro your show, or whatever you want to, you know, talk about before we get into the quote-unquote topics.
So I had this idea. IPAs are very popular. I mean, Colorado and Washington have a lot of similarities. I mean, Tacoma is a town of 200,000, and you can't swing a dead cat without hitting 15 breweries here and 5 dispensaries. And it's really IPA heavy, and I can't really drink IPAs. And so I came up with this April Fool's Day joke that I was going to play on people, and then I told everybody about it, so I can't use it. So I'm going to give it to you guys, and maybe you guys can use it. Is what I wanted to do was buy 5 pounds of hops, and then boil up some water, put some hops in, and then dry hop the rest. So just basically make hop water, like as hoppy as I can make it. Dump a fifth of Stoli in it, carbonate it, and call it an IPA. See if anyone notices. Because the way IPA drinkers are going, I don't think they will. I don't know.
For carbonation, use 4 Alka-Seltzer.
Well, you know what? I was gonna force carbonate it, but that might work better. It's Fizzy's beer. It's a thing.
You got to put juicy and hazy in the name of the beer, and you're in. And New England style hazy beer. I'm too lazy to filter it out or whatever the style is. Yeah,
Sam,
it's juicy. It tastes like I just brushed my teeth after drinking a glass of orange juice. Yeah, that's my
Yeah, Sam, just pour it all in a punch bowl and add Sprite like you would make some sort of a holiday punch or something. That might do it.
Now that would make it too sweet. It would get in the way of the hops, and people say, "Oh, it could be more. It could be hoppier.
Yeah.
Add more Cascadian hops. Add all of the Cascadian hops."
They would pick out the artificial lemon and lime and call you out for the fraud that you are.
Yeah, fraud. Definitely in that case. So I guess
But you can one of those glass ladles, though. That'd be cool.
No, I'm thinking you get like the Schlitz bottles, the one with the flip tops, and then you let it get real dusty, and you say, "Oh, it's like this really old beer."
Wait,
Like, ooh, it's been sitting in the back of the bar for 15 years. Ooh.
That's not good for IPAs.
I would buy it.
Oh, no. Fresh hops people will hate you for that. They will be like, what the fuck is this? It's over 3 weeks old. I will not drink it.
I think you're getting the idea.
If we
I
get
think you're understanding.
it's clearly the fact that we need to have an anti-IPA like Facebook group.
I'm in.
I hate IPAs.
I'm in too.
Just substitute IPA and SJW, and I think you get what the internet's all about.
Oh my god!
Holy
I can't believe you went there.
Wow. I have to go.
It was too soon.
The IPA circle jerk.
See, we already come up with like 5 show ideas in 20 minutes. It's beautiful.
So this is the part where I say I don't like beer, right?
Yeah.
Well, you can join the
okay.
anti-IPA then group. You're in
Yeah,
automatic.
There we go. I'm anti-IPA. Well, I'm anti-beer.
Instead of Antifa, it's Antipa.
Oh, God.
Anti-hops.
Wah,
we need to
wah.
get patches made and put them on our jackets. Great.
Here.
Gotta get a flag, man.
So, I guess the atheism part of what I do is I'm actually on hiatus. I'm truant from my own show. It's Ask an Atheist. Just got a new domain, atheist.radio.
Are you a theist now? Like you're taking a break from being an atheist?
Oh no, I'm taking a break from talking about it, except that I'm here. And we're on KTAH and KTQA here in Tacoma. There's more stations coming. Yeah, I can't swear on my own fucking show, so I guess I got to do it here.
Get out of your system. See, us YouTube only folks, we may not have radio listeners, but we get to say whatever the fuck we want.
Yeah, there are advantages. Let me tell you.
If I couldn't swear, I don't know. I'd probably chew off half my lip by the end of it's so
My problem is I've gone so far the other way is that I'm so used to whenever I'm talking into a microphone that I don't, so that I have to remind myself, no, Sam, relax. Everything's going to be fine. Drop
Be
it
yourself.
out.
It's okay, man.
Yeah. And now if I swear, is it really me or is it somebody else now? It's a conundrum.
If
Okay.
Sam swears on someone else's podcast, do you hear it?
Did it happen? Yeah. Okay, so we'll let Sam choose. So I had 4 big topics and then 4 topics under those as my random topics of the day. So I'll let Sam pick the big topic, and then I'll probably let somebody else pick the little topic, and then we'll just see what happens.
Like
Not a test.
Feels like a test.
It is a test.
All right.
Okay.
I'm ready.
It's a number between 1 and 4, Sam. You pick one.
Oh, 2, because I'm a programmer.
2. So the main subjects I have is I call it our thing, which is atheism, but it's kind of a mob euphemism. Crazy people who have audiences way bigger than us. Nothing to do with atheism or politics. And the last one is America the Scary. You picked crazy people who have audiences way bigger than us.
Yes, my favorite.
Jeannie, pick a number between 1 and 4, and we'll have our subject for the next few minutes.
18.
Oh, what? 18. I'll take the 1,
No,
and
I'm
I
kidding.
will pick Canada's own Jordan Peterson.
no.
I don't know if anybody's got any thoughts on him. Apparently, he's become a cult leader in the last week because it's been amazing following his Twitter account and the fact that he makes more in a month than we all make in all our lives. I don't know. Who's got the thought? Well, Deb's in Canada, so
Well, I mean, he's the purveyor of victim culture. I mean, I'm not remotely surprised to see this kind of outcome from some of those types of people. He's not the only one, of course. We see it happening all over the place, but victim culture seems to sell, and especially when you're talking about white males. You got.
Speaking of the panel.
Yeah, exactly. But there's a lot to work with.
5 out of 7 white males at like an atheist podcast. This is like the most diverse thing that's happened in years. Come on.
I'm 99.9% Jewish, according to 23andMe, which I recently found out. So that's something. That's got to be.
Yeah. Funny thing is, a lot of, at least not in my circles, there aren't a lot of people talking about Peterson in real life. The internet's a whole other thing, but the guy's a jackass. I don't remember whose channel it was, but somebody was doing a YouTube piece about him, and it was something to do with him having, he claims to be a Christian, but he couldn't really definitively say whether he believed Jesus was real or not.
Oh, I saw the clip of him, and it was astounding. He was just asked, "Are you a Christian?" and he couldn't answer the question. He went on
Yeah.
30 minutes, I think, of babbling. And what I took away from this, and I've gotten into it here and there on a few different groups with people who just fawn all over this guy. It's incredible because if you try to attack any of the ideas that he espouses, the line that his supporters always use is essentially, well, you're not smart enough to understand what he's talking about.
Oh, lovely.
It's always like he's so brilliant. You know, we just can't hope to understand and achieve his brilliance. It's literally religion.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah.
Does anybody have a good like 2-sentence description of like who Jordan Peterson is? Because all I know is he's professor in Canada, and he's basically the spokesperson for the white male audience who thinks they're basically the most trod upon in the whole continent.
Famous was he made so we had a piece of legislature go through recently, and I don't remember the name of the bill off the top of my head, but we have in Canada protections for specific groups that cover like discrimination in employment, discrimination in housing, discrimination in a bunch of different things. Those are the two that stick out in my mind. But the protected groups are, you can't discriminate on the basis of race, color, country of origin, ethnic origin, gender, or sexual orientation. And they were, like, all of these have been protected for years. And the legislation was adding gender identity. And so what that meant was you can't discriminate against a person based on their gender identity. So if they say, I'm trans, if they say, I'm a trans woman, trans man, non-binary, what have you, that's a protected status now. His beef was he blew it out of proportion to say, as a college professor, because he doesn't like the quote, Tumblr list of gender descriptors, that he didn't want to use them, but he was saying that because he doesn't want to use them in his classroom, he was going to get thrown in jail because of this new legislation. That was kind of the crux of it. And he made a big stink about how non-binary descriptors were ridiculous and they weren't part of the language and he wasn't going to use them and blah, 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 blah. So that's what got him noticed. And he now plays into the rest of that narrative where, you know, well, white people are under attack and yada, yada.
Yeah, he and Gadsat are pretty big. And Deb, your sound's a little bit choppy, so we'll see if people can... That's what happens when Canadians try to cross the border, you see.
I just shut down like a whole bunch of shit, so maybe I need to go out and come back.
Yeah, because I think another character I've heard of is Gadsat, and he's also a professor, and it's like, give people equal rights, and then there's the slippery slope argument of, oh, that means that bad things are going to happen to my privileged status, and people jump all over it. I don't know. It's like Jordan Peterson was posting something about on Twitter that like the traditional marriage situation would have saved us from all of this Me Too, like sexual harassment. Is like, didn't like marital rape just get made into a crime like 20 years ago in America? Like that kind of thing. It's like, just because you're in a married situation doesn't mean you're free from bad things happening to you.
He also seems completely ignorant of the horizon of what we're talking about with all of the harassment stuff people are talking about. It's like, this is not stuff that is just happening. This has been going on for decades and decades and decades, going right back to the era that a lot of these folks seem to think that the standard families were in ascendance, and that's very strange.
Well, I think the other thing that's it's a little bit more Stealth is, they want to go back to the time when, the women stayed home. And so, well, there was no problem with sexual harassment at work because women didn't go to work. Work could just be a boys' club, and that's the way they want it.
Yeah.
Wonder how much of this is that kind of it's like a Leave It to Beaver complex, like that.
Yes.
Everyone is so thoroughly convinced that once upon a time, this world that we lived in, where, like you said, the family was, you had your nuclear family and you had the clean workplace where it was just the boys' club and all these different things. They have this perception that somehow back then everything was actually good because everyone was in their place. They were doing what they were supposed to do, without realizing that the big difference, obviously, is that now people are just saying it. It's not like it was never happening before. Now they're just saying it.
All the executive husbands were alcoholics who went home and beat their wives, and their wives were, taking uppers from prescribed from the doctor, and everything was just fantastic. Nobody talked about it.
And they always go, well, nobody ever got divorced back then. It's like, that's because a lot of times it was illegal, and second of all, it was like the worst thing you could probably do other than get pregnant and not be married.
Well, or in a woman
as a woman,
and having no choice, having nowhere to go, having no option.
Yeah, because you've only been a housewife your entire life and you have no experience in anything other than husband care 101, and you don't have a job experience, so who's going to hire you?
Husbandry? Is that husbandry? Or am I confused?
That's animal husbandry.
That's when we go after dark a little bit later.
In a way, it kind of was. Breed.
He's not exactly wrong.
Actually, that's even more depressing.
And Deb's audio is much better, so thank you very much for coming back in. Okay, I think we've exhausted our Canadian topic of the evening, so we'll move on.
I have a couple quick things about it.
Is there more thoughts? Thoughts are okay.
Yeah. I just this whole well, no, but I like language. Okay. Well, okay, I'll drag out a chestnut. Washington has often been called Baja Canada. So,
as an Alaskan, I say yes, it is. It is.
Part of it is I love how these people who want to constrain language and society to some predetermined set that may or may not have existed sometime in the past is the thing with this thing about this pronoun argument is that he seems to say, well, there's no consensus, so I'm not going to use them. Okay, how does he think consensus is built? By accident? Like, okay, you say this is not how the consensus is built in the language. Okay, please define for us how you see the consensus being built, because clearly we need language to cover these situations. And on these subjects, they've got nothing because they don't want the change. And it sort of just belies the entire underpinning.
Why does
what the argument is?
Consensus.
Right.
Well, the consensus is set by what cisgendered white males say that the consensus is. And if they're not comfortable, then they draw the line.
Fuck you.
This is what you're not allowed to do.
Yeah.
But that's the line that he's thinking that he's not going to say. And that's where it all falls apart.
See, look at this. I'm solving problems, Sam. I'm solving problems.
Awesome.
None of us get $55,000.
No, it's 70. Like the thing that he said recently, and there's been this big like media push that like, oh, the lefties are getting out of control in college. The lefties are going crazy. Now he's like trying to find the subjects he thinks are inappropriate.
Yes.
And he's trying to get them banned, like gender studies.
Yes.
Oh, gender studies is the worst thing ever. Wait, studying gender is about because I said so, because I'm a guy who studied something that has nothing to do with gender studies, and that means I'm an expert.
Well, it's kind of crazy too, because you get the people from the hard sciences, your physicists, your biologists that bag on the soft sciences, your humanities, your gender studies, but Peterson's not a hard science guy to begin with. I think he's like a philosopher. So it's like,
yeah, I believe
fuck
so.
up, dude.
A good one. Oh, maybe not.
Well, he's also talking about doing an AI script that will help like weed out
Ooh, I know.
Marxist class.
Yeah, let's hear from the guy who's been awake 24 hours and codes all the time. What do you think? How's that gonna go? I've seen the Terminator movies. I know this is how it ends.
Let's not have Jordan B. Peterson design that.
Oh, I've never. I mean, I've come up with stuff that automatically filters stuff. Like I got a system that automatically filters my mail because I have to, and I've never called a pile of word searches an artificial intelligence. And that's clearly what's going to be. It's going to be something.
Do you also have something that sorts your female?
Hey!
There you go. Well, this
Yes.
is interesting. I just Googled Jordan Peterson for fun. And the headline I got, which is from the Toronto Star, says Jordan Peterson says website plan is on hold.
Oh,
Says his
bummer.
online list of courses to be avoided, quote, might add excessively to current polarization. Do you think?
No, bring it.
The people talking about polarization are the ones cashing in on the polarization.
Yeah.
I thought that's what he went for.
I did.
You're into.
is that a pun? Was that a pun?
Knowing this crowd, it's a 50-50 shot right here. Okay, so we're going to go. Okay, next. We actually are 40 minutes in, so in a second random topic. Let's see. So, Deb, pick a number from 1 to 4.
3.
Okay, we're going back to our thing. So, this will be an atheist subject. And Mike, you haven't talked in a while, so 1 to 4. Pick a number.
3. I can't.
3. Okay.
That's where you were going. I knew it.
I think we've already covered this in a way, but hey, the subjects I picked are God, so we'll go with it. Podcast life. Feel free to talk about the exciting, glamorous podcast life that you're living. Maybe tell a story about, something you've dealt with with podcast. Maybe your co-host disappearing off the face of the earth, so you can't do a show anymore. Sorry, Jeannie.
Love you.
Oh, I just read 2 biographies of Muhammad for my new show.
I asked before the show, so you're converted, right?
Oh yeah, me and my bag of sour cream and bacon chips over here. Yep.
What? You're holding out on me. What's going on over there?
Sour cream and bacon, the Ruffles, baby.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Look at this. Look at that.
Sour cream and bacon.
Yeah.
Is that just a Canadian thing?
Yes. Like
Damn.
That's what we do. We
No.
send it up there to
Breast.
test it and see
No.
whether or not it didn't grow like leg nipples.
Does anybody die?
If
or
it's
get,
okay,
get
then we
cancer?
accept it in the United States. Yeah.
our other one would be
Actually-
all dressed.
Are you pro leg nipple or anti leg nipple?
I don't think that's relevant.
Oh, wait. So, can I tell a quick story about test marketing?
Sure.
Oh,
when-
please do.
When Red Bull first came out, Vermont, Burlington, where I live, is a college town. So they were like, "Hey, let's give it to college kids because they'll fucking drink anything." And so I, picked a can up, and me and my boyfriend at the time both said, "Oh, this tastes like some vodka in it." Then we read the label, and the label said, "Has not been proven to not cause cancer in some lab rats."
Whoa.
Some, I feel like,
Oh,
not
Wait, has not been proven
Yeah.
to not.
I would have
Yes,
that
has
pulled up into
been-
a poster and put in my studio. That's amazing.
I wish I'd kept the can. It was
Incredible.
I don't think I'm ever going to drink this again.
Everything has not been proven to not give cancer to lab rats.
So, some lab rats, just some lab
Well,
rats.
it's some, but unless something has been proven to give them cancer, then
All right, Mr. Reasonable, I'm being funny here.
You're too reasonable, man.
trying to figure out if I can eat the lab rats.
They're really, really good with some pot butter.
You can make the lab rats into some kind of like IPA, then you'd be set.
Oh.
Lab rat IPA, greatest ever.
No.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's where we need Sam back. Okay, there you go.
Somebody's gonna make it work. It's out here.
I gotta make it with rat or hops.
Yeah.
Hops.
Rat.
Oh, kangaroo rats.
Bunnies.
Yes.
Bunnies.
Yes, hops. I like it. I like where you're going with this.
I just got that.
But no one wants to talk about the glamorous life of podcasting and how we're rolling in the dough.
It's amazing. I'm world famous. I love
over an expensive microphone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Podcasting? What is that?
Tell me more.
It's more work than it's supposed to be for far less everything.
In glory and power. Beer, paying beer.
And it's an excuse to drink. I feel like that's my takeaway.
So there was the one show where I had Robert Beatty on, he's been sort of a thorn in Kenthoven's side for a long time. And both of my co-hosts had technical problems, so they weren't there. The other guest that was supposed to be there as well couldn't come. And then the guest that did show up, Robert Beatty, accidentally gave out the join link instead of the watch link. And then I ended up having to spend the first 10 minutes booting Kenthoven supporters out of the hangout. Oh, and then an actual normal person who follows Robert came to join. Well, he saw the link and he jumped on. And I was like, okay, well, you're a normal person, you can stay. But then he'd never done a hangout before. And so every time he tried to talk, it just like screeched like horrible feedback. That was all one show.
I'm not saying that my entire purpose in starting a podcast was to get Kenthoven's attention, but I will say that early in my relationship with Becky, she almost dumped me for continually playing his videos.
Oh boy.
Well, you were like the back countdown to backpedaling. That was like 2012. It was like a
2011. Yeah,
2011. Okay, it was way back in the atheist days. There were only like 4 of us back then in 2011.
Yeah, that was Mike's idea, which was, hey, let's celebrate the day after the world ending, because it's not gonna.
Yeah.
And so we turned it into a show bit, and then we were just gonna have kind of a small party at an arcade, and then the BBC picked up on it, and it kind of got out of control from there. I'd never seen myself quoted in Vietnamese before. I don't speak Vietnamese and stuff I don't understand. Comma, Sam Mulvey, age. I'm like, yeah, that's not scary.
Because you have no idea what they're
Who was the guy who made the prediction? And he's not alive anymore, right?
Harold Camping.
Harold Camping. Okay, that name, it's in my head somewhere. Yeah, thank you.
And recently, last year as a gift for my birthday, I was gifted with an enormous 4 times the size, maybe 6 times the size. I actually don't know how big his head was. Head of Harold Camping on a stick. On a printout.
As somebody would.
6 times the size would be really big fucking.
There's a spoiler alert if my wife is listening from her birthday. It's coming up, baby, 2 months.
And there's a picture of me with it. It's apparently a local church had it printed up. And my friend Darren, who's an atheist who speaks in local churches and befriends clergy, managed to get this from one of the local churches. And this was right after I had my growler accident, where I accidentally turned a double-hulled aluminum growler into a boiling hydrogen peroxide sprinkler fest all over my hand. So my hand is all bandaged up. I'm drugged 7 ways from anything and holding an enormous Harold Camping head.
That's awesome.
It was pretty good.
Sounds like the start of a decent evening.
So that's podcasting.
Decent. I mean, on the whole podcasting thing, I don't know how you all feel about this. I mean, it's one of the issues that I've had anyway, is feeling like maybe you're not important enough or big enough to get the certain types of guests on. I mean, what are other people's experiences with that?
Oh, I'm not.
I would love to talk to this person. I don't know if I'm important enough to reach out to them and get them on my show.
Yeah, I'm not.
Here's
So-
something I found out. Like I'm in two relatively small communities. I've been like a fantasy football community and atheist community. Pretty much in those communities, anybody you ask will probably respond to you. They might respond to you negatively, but yeah, it's almost a matter of just asking. Everybody's like, "How did you get this person to show?" I'm like, "Well, I asked them.
I
and
just
I
asked them.
3 months."
I
Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. Occasionally you're ignored, but this is still a small, relatively small audience.
I've had
As long as you're not saying burn in hell, they'll respond to you probably. And
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
if you say burn in hell, they probably respond to you quicker. So throw that in there.
I don't understand. I've sent Sam like 15 hate mails, and he's never once responded.
You got to send them some defective code or something. Oh,
no, send them some
an
IPA.
IPA. Yeah. This is a
An
quadruple
IPA recipe, and in it somehow
This will kill you when you look at it.
Atheists on High.
IPA.
And say send him some pics, because that's what white gays like. You guys do this, right? You just send dick pics.
Oh,
Yeah, that's our currency.
Okay,
That's how we
not
say
funny. Got
hi.
it.
Hey, hold on.
No,
I
yeah,
can
right
honestly say I've never done that. Never once. I've
You
never
know,
sent a
me
dick
neither.
pic.
Me neither.
You're a bald guy with a beard. Are you kidding me?
Genie,
You got
you were
skills.
chopping in and out. That's probably why it took them a minute to catch it. I've had
Oh, sorry.
okay luck. Like for instance, at
With dick pics.
the first I
Well, she has her own dick pics.
I
I know
do,
it was
yes.
beautiful.
I've never actually gotten a dick pic, although I have had offers from Muslim men from all over the globe.
Yeah, that's right. You got your,
I get all the Muslim creepers, but see, they're too chicken to send a dick pic. They want me to send them porn, not necessarily on myself, but just porn, or teach them how to masturbate. That's a popular one.
Teach them how.
Wow.
I feel like this could be your podcast right here.
There we go. Masturbating is haram, so they claim to not know how to do it. I don't believe them, but you know, like, dude, if you haven't, and these guys are, 25, and I'm like, if you haven't figured that out by now, I can't help you. Not
That's
happening.
probably true.
Well, I'm glad to know I'm not the only one getting those requests, so it makes me feel a lot better about myself.
Oh, I even had one guy who he was like a friend of a friend, commented on some of my, because I'm critical of Islam pretty regularly, in case you hadn't guessed.
Nah.
And he started in with the, "Oh, you're insulting my religion," and I'm like, "Yep, sure am." And he started to try and debate me and whatever, and then he started to message me privately. And it's not like I'm terribly bothered by that. I prefer to debate in public because I want audiences to see rational thought, and maybe somebody might, learn something. But he started to private message me, and then he started in with out of the blue after like 6 or 8 months of very sporadic. Like he would message for 3 or 4 days, and then I wouldn't hear from him for 3 weeks. But all of a sudden, it's like, "I'm madly in love with you." And I'm like, "Dude, you know I'm not single, right?" He's like, "Oh, that's okay. You can keep him as long as I'm your other guy." And I'm like, whatever. And I basically told him to piss off. And then a few months later, he shows back up on my page again, and I was debating Islam with somebody, and he comes out and says that atheists are sexually immoral. And I'm like, "Oh, really?
Yeah.
Mr. Muslim dude who told me
Yeah,
that
we
I
are.
should
Yeah, we are.
I could keep my husband,
You're an outlaw.
as long as I screwed you too, right?" I never said that. I'm like, "You better admit it now, or there's screenshots coming." "Oh, I would never sleep with some, kafir, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "Okay, screenshot. Block." I'm like, blocked it. And I thought that was the end of him. No, like 4 months later, he unblocks me and starts messaging me again. And he's like, "Did you forget me?" I'm like, "You blocked me, dumbass." He's like, "Well, you were mean to me." I'm like, "You lied, asshole. I told you what I was going to do." And he still, like, 2 years later, he still periodically, actually just earlier this week, he sent me a message. And he's like, "Why are you ignoring me?" I'm like, "Did you I'm not compelled to talk to you. We're supposed to talk. I says you. I said so. I'm like, yeah, fuck you, buddy. No.
Can I actually give you like an honest, like one of the best things that I've gotten out of podcasting?
Yes. That'd be awesome.
Getting to meet new people.
Yes.
Like actually meet them, and hug them sometimes. Sorry, Zach, that was a little close. I know.
Sometimes.
Yeah, but
we were in close proximity and ReasonCon. That's right. Rest in peace till 2019. You bastards! Why can't you do next year? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, just
I'm not over it.
Just actually, like I kind of like live in this weird bubble of just not religion in this area for the most part. There's some bits and pieces here and there, but it's just nice to get to know people who are way more passionate about it, I guess, kind of than I am, because I don't really have to be, which kind of gets my own juices kind of going. And it's nice
I mean, if you really want to be passionate about it, try moving to Colorado Springs, where I live.
Oh no, fucking thank you.
Focus on the family and New
I am
Life
very
Church
aware
and the Air Force Academy.
I have biologicals that live there. No, thank you.
I mean, if you're looking, yeah, no, if you're looking for activist motivation, I mean, this is the place to be. There is nothing else that will get you more riled up than just driving down the street in Colorado Springs. You will be ready to start your own podcast.
Focus on the family tour yet?
There's something to that. I went on tour. I went on a small tour in 2013 around the Western United States, and it's like atheism here there's like a big atheist. There's Seattle atheists up in Seattle, Tacoma atheists down here. A lot of people in it, but they're not that active. And then you would go to somewhere like Oklahoma City, and they're huge and doing stuff all the time and constantly keeping in. And I didn't want to call it a siege mentality, but I did anyway. Where it's like when you're surrounded by people who, when you're in a really unfriendly environment, you sort of hew to each other a little closer than you might otherwise.
Yeah, almost like a cornered dog. You feel like you're being pushed out of your own town, and you're going to bite back at some point.
Yeah,
I mean, the community that I'm involved here in Colorado Springs, that's Pikes Peak Atheists. I've been on leadership for that community for about the past 4 or 5 years, and we're nearly 1,000 members.
That's awesome.
Wow.
And we have
Great.
like 4 to 5 events a week, all the way around the calendar. I mean, it is nonstop.
Nice.
And we are constantly out in the community and trying to get people involved. And I'm a screen printer for a living, a silk screen printer. So I do all of our T-shirts and the merchandise that we wear, and I do it all at cost so that I can donate it to the community, and we can just get the word out there. And sure enough, I mean, we started with I think we started with about 36 members 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, and we're at 1,000 now and still growing. So
That's amazing.
yeah, there's a need. There's a need in those types of communities, and people are out there. So anyone who's listening to this hangout, if you find yourself in a place where you think, there's nothing here for me, there's no community, then trust me, just put the word out. There are people out there, and they're willing to meet you, and they're going to be excited.
That was always one of the nicest things I was ever able to do on my show, is when I would get the occasional email or call that said, hey, I'm an atheist in some part of the world. I don't know anybody like me. Well, what do I do? And a lot of the times I could just like ask around, do a little bit of Googling. It's like, here, you're not alone. Here are people 35 miles away from you, or however many miles away from you, who think as you do and are looking specifically for people like you to talk to. And I think that was one of the sort of the best moments of my career as a podcaster. Was that sort of thing. Actually, I do have a question for you guys, because there's something that you guys like. I've never really done conventions or anything like that. The only time I've ever managed to hit conventions is when they happen to come up to my neck of the woods. I haven't really set aside travel expenses or anything like that before. It's not, my lavish lifestyle as a broadcaster doesn't really afford me that much. I know, it's like I don't hear about conventions quite as much as I used to, but I'd really like to go to one. Is that, as somebody who does podcasting, Should I really consider that? Is that a cool thing to do?
Go to
I would recommend it.
Reason
Yeah,
Con.
let me talk about, like, I live in Atlanta, Georgia, and for some reason there never seems to be anything in Atlanta itself. But ReasonCon, which is in Hickory, North Carolina, that was like 4 hours away. I've been there twice. There was Secular Saturday in Chattanooga. That was pretty good. And then NanoCon, which is every year in Nashville, Tennessee, which is actually not a terrible spot. It's kind of middle in the country in a way for people to reach. And that's just a one-day thing. But they're around. I know there's this theory that they're all dying, and thanks, Mrs. Milwaukee, for making that happen. But they're still going. It's just, do you want this big crowd, or do you want like a relatively small audience where you can actually talk to everybody and get to know them? Because ReasonCon is that.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
for sure. Like, I went to 3 this year. So ReasonCon is...
What kind of lavish lifestyle do you live?
I'm
I'm kidding.
She's big time.
She's Canadian.
I was gonna make a healthcare. There's a healthcare joke there.
Yeah,
that's
I
all
know.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I set it up, Sam. Knock it down.
But like ReasonCon, I think, what did they say, Zach? It was like 400 this year. Like,
I think so. Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
it was.
they got
about
a
that.
really good turnout.
That's a pretty big number, but it was.
It was. And now the one I went to in Toronto, I'm not sure what the turnout was, but so ReasonCon is like an evening and a whole day, and it's a lot of fun. The one I went to in Toronto was 2.5 days long, and now it had some of the biggest names like Dawkins and Krause and Seth Anders and Aaron Raw and Matt Dillahunty and a lot of big names in Canada as well that you guys may not know of. Like, well, Armin Navabi, but you guys probably know, and Ali Rizvi, of course, and some other folks. Friend of mine, God, good friend of mine. His name just went out. Oh, Krista Carlo, sorry. But like two full days worth of speakers and a reception the night before. Now that sucker. And most of that was because of Dawkins and Krause, but that sucker for VIP was $600, and
Wow.
I had to,
I
had to like doe eye my, hey mom, like Christmas, birthday, and that kind of stuff. But then I did go to the shitstorm in Milwaukee. And
you're the one person I haven't talked to about that.
Oh,
Okay.
I was interested.
I went, but the thing is, like, Milwaukee was still reasonably attended, even though there was a good contingent of assholes. They all left, thankfully, right after the main event, so that was good. But it still was well attended, and I don't honestly think that had much of anything to do with what they think it did. I don't. That's just me, but the other two were well attended, and where this idea is that conferences are dying out, I think it's bullshit.
I think part of it is just a sense that online atheism is kind of a little quieter than it was in times past, but
Quieter, huh?
yeah, I'm looking for the right euphemism. I'm just not finding it.
It's
I'm still screaming over here up in the corner, but
like ReasonCon 3 was my first atheist anything, or my first convention really anything, and it was a blast. And I really didn't go to any of the meetings, partly because I really don't like people. So I spent most of my time just talking to people outside of whatever the speakers were doing.
Yep.
And I still had a great time. I had a great time.
The only way I was able to do the CFI conference when it was here in Tacoma was by getting a press pass. And so I worked the hell out of that. I got like 6 episodes of material out of doing that, which meant I got to socialize with no one. I was constantly doing interviews, constantly editing, constantly working the studio. And so that's kind of what I'm looking to do is to socialize a little bit more. So this is all really good intel. But one of the conventions I'm looking at is Dragon Con in Atlanta, because they have a big skepticism track. That's a fair.
Yeah, I do want to talk. Like, it's it's a crazy, like Labor Day weekend in Atlanta is the craziest weekend of the year because there's like a NASCAR race. There's like 2 college football games. There's a Decatur Book Festival, the biggest independent book festival in the country, just because my wife works for it. So I never get to go to Dragon Con, but Dragon Con is a pretty big skeptic gathering because they have like a skeptic track and it's like downtown. Just get a hotel room in town and you're going to hang out all weekend. And it's a pretty good spot, but I've never been able to really go other than to watch people wearing their stormtrooper outfits one year. And that's fun. You know, everybody's wearing their costumes. You just can't get into the hotels unless you're actually like in there, but it's definitely a fun time. And I feel like there's those kind of cons like every month somewhere in the country.
Yeah.
And there's atheist gatherings. I mean, like Brett said, you know, your local group, I have, you know, meetup notifications in Atlanta. There's meetings almost every day in town. If you really do feel a need, like, I need to talk to sane people. Well, we're not all sane, trust me. But, you know, sane enough.
Some of us podcast.
Unfortunately, the hashtag normalize atheism thing is like, well, I'm not really normal, but I understand where you're going with that. I just, you know, I don't feel like I could
don't
know the
normal myself.
term.
I'm not on that poster.
Well, Michael, you just went to one of your first things recently, right?
Well, yeah. So I haven't gone to any cons. I went to a God Awful Movies live show weekend, and it was almost like a con environment, you know, a bit because, you know, so they had a thing the night before, and then I had I went to Salt Lake City, and so I knew some people in the area just through online groups and through like TGIA, and so I ended up hanging out with a bunch of people that I hadn't met, you know, like in real life, and it kind of was like a con, and you know, I think those are going to be happening. I think a lot more over the next couple of years, as you know, there's enough shows with enough followings that they can, you know, maybe team up and do, you know, like the Unholy Trinity used to do their tours and that sort of thing. But there's some conferences that I'm looking at going to next year too, you know, just to kind of experience that piece of it.
Yeah.
Well, there's one I heard of that's happening like in New York City next July. Although I did hear an interview and the guy's like, I reached out to every atheist podcast. I'm like, not me. Anyway, you know, one of those moments where you're like,
Nope.
I exist. Why haven't you found me? Why don't you love me? Sorry.
Like,
Yeah.
he's on my friends list, and I never heard from him.
Hemant Mehta told me about that. I had him on a couple of weeks ago, and he had told me about that one. And it looks like it'll be a pretty good lineup. It's pricey, but it's fucking New York City. So
Yeah, New York is not cheap no matter what you do.
that one's. I think I know that I'm going to that because I'm wrapping it in with another trip out there, anyways, and whatnot. So I know I'm going to be going to that. But then there's some others.
I didn't get anything about it.
Just sound.
So nobody here got reached out to. Okay.
They haven't really promoted it yet, but there's a website I know. It's just
I
called.
remember the show I heard about. It's got a very like generic name, but
Yeah, it's.
if you wanted to like throw in a New York trip, that's not a bad excuse for that. But
Yeah, that's kind
Damn.
of what I'm doing, and I've just heard too many people talking about how awesome QED is. So I'm going to try to go to that next year, but that's
That'd be pretty cool.
that's a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah.
well, if we were all
sounded like
scathing
I'm-
atheists and get flown out to Australia for Skepticon out there, that's
I know.
I am desperately trying
Yeah.
for 2019 ReasonCon, the Atheist on High Life from
You
ReasonCon.
should-
That would be.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh
Yeah.
wait,
Really?
Wrath was there last time, and they were passing the beer out like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah. No,
They're hard
I'm-
as hell to
I'm-
schedule. I've been trying to schedule them
Very.
like for a show for 2
Did
months,
they
and they're like,
do,
"Well, we can't do it."
You know
what's
what's
Sorry?
hilarious, because they're from Wyoming, and Aaron
Which exists
actually,
by the way.
and Aaron
Debatable.
is a Canadian actually, and he's actually
Ooh, no.
from the little shit town next to the little shit town that I grew up in. So when we first met in a hangout, you know, it's like, oh, you're from Ontario. I'm from Ontario. Where are you from? Oh, you'll never, you know, I'm from Stratford. I'm like, I'm from Mitchell, asshole. It's like, no shit, you know, because they're like, you know, nothing. Well, Stratford has the Shakespearean theater. Mitchell just has Nips.
Wait, so Brett or Mike, have like, what are your con experiences or getting togethers?
Well, mine is actually, I've only done 2 cons, and both of them were the Colorado Secular Conference. I went to the first one, and the keynote speaker was Seth Andrews, which was it was like meeting a superhero for me at the time. My first chance to go to a con and meet somebody that I really looked up to and really admired his work. And then I went again 3 years later, and
Wow.
that was a really big event, surprisingly big. And there are still a number of people in the atheist and secular and skeptical community who were there who still look back on that one and say that was the most diverse conference that they have ever seen. Still to this
that's
day.
great.
What year was that? I mean, that was before I was sort of involved.
Atheist?
Where?
Self-aware.
Let's see. That would have been. I think that one was probably about 4 years ago now.
Yeah,
I would
that
say.
makes sense. Yeah, I wasn't. Wasn't in the scene.
Yeah, but that one was phenomenal. And then the guy who'd been running it for quite some time, he actually owns Evolved Fish here in Colorado Springs. That's Tom Kellogg. He had been financing that thing out of his own pocket and taking it at a loss for enough years in a row. But he said, you know what, I'm not going to go ahead and host this thing anymore unless somebody else can come in and put some investment into it. And nobody picked up the ball and ran with it. So the Colorado Secular Conference is dead. Unfortunately, right after the most successful, showing that they had ever had. And one where a number of activists were really, really impressed with the lineup. Just they thought it was one of the best conferences that had ever been held, and it fell flat on its face right after that, unfortunately.
Yeah, there's definitely it's a tough thing to put a conference together. Like the first Reason Con, and Deb can probably back me up on this. Like Cash of Atheists on Air, like basically financed it. And then when it came back the next year, he basically like pushed it aside. All right, you guys take it. And, you know, they were able to take it. And they were smart enough to say, well, let's do it every other year. Unfortunately, that means next year I got to find other places to go.
NanoCon.
Yeah, NanoCon's not bad because it's Nashville. My parents live there. And it's not a terrible trip because I bring my trunk full of beer, which is not a horrible thing. We've gone like way we beat the hour. We're like at an hour 10. So we got to 2 questions, I think, which is for this kind of crowd was pretty good. So let's finish up by everybody kind of saying one last thing. I will give links to everybody's shows and show notes, and then maybe let us know what you're gonna do for Thanksgiving, because I'm gonna be on a beach in Mexico for Thanksgiving. That's where I'm going to be. Beer selection's a little iffy, but I'm gonna.
Thanksgiving is overdue.
I know we're not, Canadians had their Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving was a month ago. Where have you been?
You bastards, and you have hockey. Okay, we'll start.
Hey, I love hockey. Don't you dare.
We'll go my right to left. So we'll start with Sam, who's of course sleep deprived. So I'm sure it'll be lovely.
This has been. I need to do this more. This is cool. Not a con, but our 400th episode is in March, and I want to make it a party. I already have a venue, so maybe have
March,
that.
I might need to get out there.
Maybe have that on your calendar. Other than that, I had something what I was going to say, and I've completely forgotten.
Thanksgiving, got anything?
Oh, Thanksgiving, yes.
Yeah.
I usually fry a turkey. That's what I usually do.
Okay.
Deep fried.
I like where you're going.
An
IPA, right?
Yeah, an IPA. You're not too far off, because I use the same pot I make beer in.
You just pour beer on
Nice.
top of your potpourri that's burning in.
Yeah, you get like bottom shelf vodka, and you just pour it over potpourri.
Burnett's, some
Yeah.
Burnett's vodka.
IPA. It's born on day is 10 minutes ago. It's gonna be great. Yeah, I mean I
It's
usually
fresh.
yeah. I brine the crap out of a turkey and then fry it. And I've built devices to prevent death. When you make turkey.
What?
You look very worried, Sam.
This is my I'm frying turkey face. This is what I look like for about 3 hours, just making sure nobody dies. Don't get within 6 feet of me or my camp stove. No. But yeah, I actually really like I like it because it doesn't take 13 hours. It just takes 90 terrifying minutes if it's the right size turkey. Yeah, and Thanksgiving, I like the cooking part. I don't like any other part of Thanksgiving, but I like the eating a meal part.
That sounds pretty good. So Michael, what you got?
Nothing too exciting. I'll be going over to my in-laws where we'll be avoiding talk of anything political or of consequence.
So you will not be talking.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Let's see. That's there will be wine that will be drunk quickly, and I always go over there and I have to dress in layers because within 15, 20 minutes of being there, I'm like wanting to be taking off my pants because it's like 97 degrees in there at all times.
Pixar didn't happen.
So it's
No pics. It didn't happen. It's okay.
Yeah,
We've already been over dick pics.
it'll
Yeah, we've been there.
be delightful.
I wasn't talking about his undies.
I bet you are. So, Mike, any conspiracy talk on Thanksgiving?
On my podcast or at home?
Either one.
Yeah. Yes. Let's see. For my show, I've actually switched formats from trying to do a conspiracy. I'm just grabbing news stories and trying to comment on them. Seems to be working. I'm getting some good feedback, so I'm gonna be back in business. I spent about 2 years with a mental block. I've been trying to write a couple shows, and it's like, well, one was about Wi-Fi and magnetic fields, and I'm like, since my day job is electrical designer, I think I should probably put a little bit more effort into this one. And I just, every time I look at what I wrote, I'm like, that's crap. So yeah, so the show's going good. Thanksgiving, apparently about half my family is going to go to a football game that day, so we're putting it off a day. So I'm probably going to try to make myself a nice little Thanksgiving dinner for Thanksgiving. I'm not a big sports person, so and then Friday we'll go over to my mother's house and she'll cook something. So yeah, 2 days of eating.
Expand it. Well, I'm going to do 7 days of eating. But, Jeannie, what do you do in Vermont? Is like a vegan thing? I had to do that. Sorry.
Well, no, kind of. Usually I do traditional holiday nachos because of 30 years in retail. So it means just making nachos and not talking to anybody all day long.
I like this.
I'm heading
on the
right
other
over.
hand, yeah, right.
I won't talk any nachos all day.
Okay, no. So wait until I get you now. I used to date somebody who is a NECI, New England Culinary Institute certified chef, and we're still on really good terms. So I give her a turkey, and she brines it a couple days ahead of time, and we spend all day long cooking. We eat until we can't eat anymore. We drink and watch nerd TV and pass out, and then wake up, have leftovers, and then yeah, I get a full course, like huge ass meal. So it'll be me just eating all day long without having to really expend anything other than here's a free turkey. Oh, and just over a gallon and a half of grognog that I'm going to make.
Grognog? What is this?
It involves a dozen eggs, a quart of cream, most of a handle of rum, some sugar, a mixing bowl, a couple of hours.
Send the recipe. I'll throw it on the show notes. I think this could be good or bad, but I think.
Oh my God, it's amazing!
This could go in positive directions. It sounds like eggnog with extra sugar.
Because you will tell the truth after you've had a cup or two.
I don't know if I want that, but okay. So Deb, when is Thanksgiving in Canada, and what are you thankful for other than not being in the U.S.? And
It was
what's happening?
first Sunday of October. Duh. So it's actually before Halloween. And definitely thankful that I don't have an orange orangutan in office. Everywhere I go, actually, one of the first things now I get is, "You're from Canada? Oh my God, Justin Trudeau's hot." I get, seriously, like everywhere in the States I go, I pretty much, even in Hangouts, actually, I get that. So, he's okay. I didn't actually vote for him, but better than what we got rid of. That's for damn sure. And I'm thankful that I got to go to a bunch of conferences this year and meet lots of cool people and all of that stuff. And I saw the Zach for a short while at ReasonCon.
I know ReasonCon was tough because I feel like I've been talking to people for months who are like, "Oh, I saw you for 5 seconds." I'm like, "Why did we hang out more?" It's like, because there were 300 people there. That's why.
Exactly.
I actually knew people this year as opposed to the first time where I knew nobody.
I remember at one point standing in the lobby on the Friday night going, "It literally is me and 200 of my closest friends. Holy shit." Because I knew every single person that was standing in the lobby at that moment, and there was at least 60 or so of them.
But you're planning on, I'm trying to remember when NanoCon was last year, but I'm guessing it'll be around the same time.
It's in March, because
if you can make it to Nashville's great. And
well, I went to the first one.
If you really need a place to stay, my parents have a lot of room in their house, and they have a lot of booze. So
I may have to.
They're a little confused. I told them at my show, and they looked at me weird, but it's all right. It's okay.
I may have to consider that.
There's some of the, I call them very, 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 very 100 varies after that, liberal Catholics. And it's my fault that they're Catholics, but we won't get into that right now because we're trying to wrap things up, which is very tough to do when you have 6 amazing people on your show. So, Skeptic Brett, you get to finish this.
Oh,
finish
no,
it. Do the finishing move. Thanksgiving show, finishing thoughts, whatever you got. The meaning of life, everything.
Okay, what was the question? No, okay, so as far as things let's do what I'm thankful for, and then what I'm actually doing for Thanksgiving, and then I'll just I'll hang it up at that. So, actually what I'm thankful for, honestly, is the atheist and skeptic podcasting community. I was a listener for some years, and then finally decided to do a show for myself. Someone said, "Hey, you've got a good voice, so you should be in front of a microphone." I said, "All right, I'll do it." And then, well, yeah, but good voice or not, you still have to say something worthwhile, and that was the real challenge.
That has not happened to me yet, and I'm at episode 120, so go ahead.
So, but really, that's honestly what I'm really most thankful for is this entire community and the opportunity that I've had to speak to a lot of really amazing people while I've been doing it. And if I would offer up a word of encouragement, I know that we have probably all kind of felt that that we've been spinning our wheels, and it feels like things aren't changing in the way that we would like to see them change. And I would just encourage everyone who's on this call, and also people who are listening, if you have a show or if you don't have a show, whatever it is that you're doing, continue to be that one extra pebble that creates the tidal wave. Do not give up.
Absolutely.
We are all doing something important. And if you're only reaching one person, that's one person. That's someone that you're reaching.
Absolutely.
So it makes it all very worth it. I would encourage you all to just keep your nose to the grindstone and keep getting things done. Aside from that, what I'm doing for Thanksgiving is I'm actually meeting up with the leadership team for Pikes Peak Atheists, which is currently, I think, 7 of us for a community of almost 1,000 people. And I'm really excited about that because for a lot of years now, I've been doing the family thing and it's been awkward for a long time. And now we're just getting together and doing the potluck thing like you would at a Baptist church in the South. We are getting together and we are sharing our food, and we're just going to have a good time being, atheists together and activists. And the house that we're going to be holding it at, they have a theater screen down in the basement. It's like a 500-inch screen or some insane shit like that. So I get to watch my Lions lose on a big screen this year. Yay! So that's what I'm doing for Thanksgiving. And that's my final words of encouragement to everyone on this call and everyone watching.
I guess if you want proof that God doesn't exist, it's being a Detroit Lions fan and fans. Trust me, look that up.
Or worse, being a Maple Leafs fan.
Yeah, but you guys have Babcock now. Don't you dare. You took our
I
coach.
don't know who that is. All I know is that the Leafs have never won anything in my entire life. So.
And they're Canadian. Right. It's like weird. It used to be like a weird thing when Canadian teams didn't make like the NHL finals. Now it's a weird thing when they do because America took over everything, including. I mean, I have a Pittsburgh Nashville connection. That was a fun and frustrating finals. And gosh, if I'm talking hockey, that clearly means I've gone way beyond the time. So I do want to say thanks to everybody being on. Like sometimes these shows can be tough because everybody's over talking to each other because there's 7 of you. So I really do appreciate Brett and Deb and Jeannie and Mike and Michael and Sam for being on tonight and taking your time to just hang out. I think this might be a monthly thing I do is just bring on some people because then it doesn't mean I have to do as much research. So that's awesome. So if you want to support this show, well, you probably don't because the people who support my show have only been doing it since episode 1. So be like Bobby Huteodi, patreon.com/Zachrilege, ZACHRILEGE, and I just spelled that correctly, and I'm on beer number 2. So follow me on Twitter. Like Zachrilege Cast page on Facebook. Send all love mail and anybody you want to be on this show, let me know to zachrilege.cast@gmail.com. So thank you to my guests for being on tonight. Everybody was great. So for the listeners, stay safe. If you need to chat, I'm available. If you're an atheist and feel alone, you are not alone. Reach out. Let's chat and get that human connectedness that keeps people coming back every Sunday. Stay skeptical. I love all y'all, and good night and gong sound.